Alright dudes, bear with me. This video is kind of all over the place. I started it with trying to diagnose my taillights. Couldn't really find the issue, but I fixed the problem. Still don't know where the source was, so not really happy with how it turned out. But then took the car out for a test drive and something else broke, like all things. This is what happens when you have a turbo car. It's one thing after another, so anyway, I won't explain it for a second time, just watch the video. What's up dudes? Welcome back to the Race Car and Chill YouTube channel. I figured today I'll make a quick video on the Turbo IS. I've got a very common problem that happens a lot to these. My brake lights, actually sorry, my tail lights don't work. My brake lights do work, but my tail lights they just keep popping fuses. So first thing you should do when you notice your tail lights are not working but your brake lights are working is, sorry for the shitty lighting today, the sun's super harsh out, but let's get some lighting, here we go. Come check your fuse. 10 amp fuse right here on the tail. So to open this side panel up, you just pull on this bad boy and it comes all the way out. I took the whole panel off just so we can see what we're doing a little bit better. You can use one of these tools to pull the fuse, but I like the needle nose, they work a lot better. I pulled the fuse and you can see that it is popped. Let's see if I can get it to focus. I did replace the fuse just to see if, like, you know, maybe things got wet. As you can see, we got a lot of rain a couple days ago. Oh man, the camera is slacking. Yeah, car's super filthy from the rain, so I figured maybe something got wet and that's what caused it to pop a fuse. Let it dry out and it's still popping fuses. So the next thing I want to check is there's a taillight harness that goes from this side all the way to this side, and it's run on the back side of this bumper. And what happens most of the time is it's just from the factory, it's just taped to this bumper. That tape wears out over time and the wire starts to sag and it touches the exhaust and the two wires melt there and short out. So that's my first assumption. That's what I think is going to happen, but I'm going to have to get the car up in the air and get under there to see what we find. Here's the irony in it all. The lights are working again. Let's see what happens when I press the brake pedal. See if that popped the fuse. Nope, they're still on. So maybe something was wet. I don't know. I'm gonna let this run for a little bit, see what happens. Maybe go down there and wiggle some of the joints. Maybe I made a bad crimp connection last time I repaired this. I'll go wiggle all the joints and see if I can get it to short out and pop that fuse again. Then maybe we'll have a direction on where we're going. Alright, so I'm under the car. It's on jack stands too. I know the gravel's kind of sketchy with the jack, but it's on jack stands. The weight's on the stands, not on the jack. The jack's just there to keep it easy to take down later on. But anyway, there's a couple of repairs in this line that I can see off the bat. Here's one of them. I did not do this one, but the wire forks and goes over there to another direction up top. It's got all this electrical tape up here. I'm not really sure what the hell's going on. I have repaired this once before. My repairs, sorry guys, I got the sun in my eyes. I can't really see what I'm filming. Yeah, you can see I've repaired it before once here, and that was because it did in fact melt onto the exhaust. You can kind of see a little bit of the plastic left on the tailpipe. But that was what I was hoping my problem was. I was hoping like one of these zip ties broke and it was like rubbing up on the exhaust again. I don't see anything obvious with this line. You can see some of the crimps that I made there in the past. They all still look okay. They're all weatherproof too. There's just clear heat shrink. So I'm gonna open this up and see what somebody else did here, because I didn't do this part. So hopefully we can find an issue in here. If not, it's gonna get a little more complicated. We're gonna troubleshoot this a little bit more than I wanted to. So let's hope we find the problem in here. All right, unfortunately for me, I took all that tape off and there's no connections in here. It turns out this is just like some extra wire that someone taped up to get it out of the way. And then I went back and it's gonna be hard for me to show you guys, but I checked the work I did earlier, the previous fix I've done on this car, and I don't see anything wrong with my other fixes either. You can see how I kept the wires, the new wires I replaced, way up off of the exhaust. I got them zip tied up above the hangers there. So I'm gonna have to troubleshoot this some more, but typically this is where the problem is. Most, like 95% of the time that you guys have these codes or these issues, this wire is touching the exhaust and it's melted right here. And what you need to do is kind of what I did is cut out the old melted wire and replace it with a new run. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So what I'm gonna do next is I think I'm gonna pull the bulbs and double check in case it's something stupid like that, and then if not, I'll pull up a wiring harness or a wiring diagram and start tracing this line back. Alright, it's been about 10-15 minutes, and I know it's hard to see, but the lights are still on. Got some research, right? I got some answers for you guys though. So everything that's on the tail light circuit, it's these two corner lights on each side, the tail lights and the interior lights, and the license plate lights. And so you got 2, 4, 6, 8 lights, all in pairs. And the last pair is these 10 up here. It's the parking light in that little, hold on, let me see if I can block this out so you guys can see it. In that little part right there, those bulbs are all on the same circuit. So if you're having these issues, that's where you should check. First thing I would check is obviously the bulbs. After the bulbs, I would check the connectors and make sure the wires going into those connectors are not corroded, torn, you know, just make sure they look good. And that should solve your problem. It can get a little more complicated than that, but very seldom does it. So that's where we're gonna leave this video. My lights are still working, so I put a new fuse in and that's all I did to fix this. I'm not happy with it. Clearly there's something that got wet because I think I drove the car through puddles before this happened. So I'm gonna eventually go through all the wiring and build a whole harness for the engine and everything. I'll tackle it when the time comes. So for now, we're gonna leave it like this. Let's go for a test drive. So I think I may have found the issue, but again, on paper it doesn't really make sense because the circuits are completely different. But I've got the quick release on the bumpers, which I kind of hate, but it's super convenient to take the bumper on and off. And my fog light, the harness that goes to the fog light here, I don't have fender liners because the car is kind of low. So the fog light harness was actually rubbing up against the tire. And it doesn't make sense, again, since they're allegedly on separate circuits, but let me show you what I found. Here was the connector I found. Obviously pretty beat. Let me get it out in the light for you guys. Obviously pretty beat, but then the wires were also pretty frayed on it. So that may have been the problem. Either way, I cut that off. I don't run fog lights on this bumper. I've got a different bumper I'll eventually run too. So before I took it on the test drive, I snipped that wire, kind of taped it up out of the way so it's not going to rub up on the tire again. And now I think we're ready for a test drive. See a little bit of smoke. I don't want to talk about that. I'm suspecting valve stem seals, but also a little bit of a squeak up here. We'll worry about that later. So to get her warmed up, put some tools away, open the gate up. I don't know if the camera shows it, but definitely smoking quite a bit. It smells like it's coming from here. Oh yeah, you can definitely see it there. So I gotta figure out what the hell's going on, because I drove to the gas station and there's a truck here, so I'm definitely not gonna fill up, but I need to. But this thing was smoking a lot worse while I was driving, so it's kind of sketching me out. So let's figure out what the hell's going on. I don't know if it'll show up on camera. Oh, it definitely does. You can see my wastegate right in the middle of the screen there, kind of coated in oil, and you can see a little bit of oil splash on the firewall there. So I'm spraying oil somewhere from somewhere. I'm at the store right now. I can't get under it, but it's got to be from the drain, right? I don't see where else it could be. Let's see if we've got a couple drops there. That hose is my catch can vent, but oh yeah, look at my dump tube. It's all full of oil. Where the hell's that coming from? Let's figure out. I guess I gotta get the car home first. It's spraying a lot of oil. Damn. Let's go fill up and go back home. Alright, I'm under the car and I limped it home, obviously. Got under it, you can see the oil clearly, just caked all over the place. But I can't find where it's coming from. So my brake pedal also kind of got soft. And I have a suspicion this is brake fluid, but it's like coming down the downpipe and dripping here. You can see it's quite a mess. But I can't find like exactly where it's coming from, so because the brake line's all the way in here, it's that line right there. Kind of goes around this whole mess. So let me get up top and see if I can find anything there. All right, I limped it home and I'm running out of light and also patience, but here's what I found. Tore it apart, and you can see my brake lines are here wrapped in this gold heat wrap. If you peel it back, you can see the damage there, and I suspect that's where the line's broken at. You can see the trail of oil, brake fluid I should say, down the downpipe here where it gets super dark. So we are definitely leaking brake fluid onto the downpipe, but as you can see, this heat shrink, or this heat wrap, is just all sorts of damaged. So I've been putting this off as long as possible, but I think it's time to relocate the ABS where the battery is, put the battery in the trunk, so I don't have these kinds of problems. I've always been nervous about it being so close to my turbo here, especially once I get it on track. You know, that it'll definitely boil my fluid, so looks like that's the next step. So probably gonna be waiting on some parts, and I'll make a full video on how to DIY relocate the battery and the ABS in the IS300. That's where we're gonna leave this video off today. No, that's basically, you know, one step forward, two steps backwards. That's the name of the game when you're building turbo cars. So we'll see you guys in the next video.